So we've been talking for a while now, I mean, really since the January 6th riots, about the different stories that those who want to excuse what happened on that day have been telling about what took place. Many of these stories you've heard before. It wasn't really Trumpist. In other words, it was Antifa in disguise or people pretending to be Trumpists. Or, in direct conflict with that, it was Trumpist, but they weren't violent. It was peaceful. Obviously, those two can't both be true, but these are examples of conflicting explanations for what took place. Or a few people did the wrong thing, and it was less about politics, but more about those people being unhinged or whatever, and they should be punished, but not too bad because for political reasons, they're being held without bail and it's all too strict and the conditions aren't good. And one guy didn't get vegan food and so on and so forth. So there've been all these different stories told. The FBI set it up. Tucker Carlson played with that one for a little while. Going to play a clip for you here, which is kind of like the next iteration, the next step in the evolution of this. And this is a clip of Newsmax host Greg Kelly suggesting that Democrats set up the riots and maybe even carried them out. Maybe in some general sense, Democrats set the conditions for the riots, but maybe they actually just planned it. They did it. They did the whole thing. So let's just go to this clip. I'm going to play a couple minutes of it because even the lead up is crazy. Again, this is on Newsmax. This is really wacky, weaponized stuff. Let's get into it.
I loved it. I loved the trolley. I love King Friday. He's going to show up eventually. I loved it. As a child, as a 4 to 7-year-old child, and occasionally in college. Look, the land of make-believe is for children. It is not for adults, but we are, in Joe Biden's America, they want us to live in the land of make-believe. They're going to pretend.
Imagine smearing Mr. Rogers in order to make this very ridiculous political point.
Pretend that black children aren't being killed by other black children.
Okay, now, this is the black on black violence myth. What do I mean it's a myth? Are black people killed by black people? Yeah. When you look at the actual data, the odds of a black person being killed by a black person are within a couple percentage points of the odds of a white person being killed by a white person. We still have a relatively segregated country, and people overall are around people like them, and thus are likely to be victimized by people that are like them. For years, we've known this. They don't care.
This is happening. This is happening, and it can't be denied. This is a crisis. Yet, no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to talk about this. It is happening, and nothing is being done. It has become so bad under Joe Biden because, well, he's in so much denial. How about this? The crime wave, the conventional crime. I'm talking about robberies everywhere, shootings and robberies. You know, Black Lives Matter, the summer last year, it led to all kinds of help yourself to anything you want in the store.
Consider how unhinged this is, by the way. These are all unrelated issues that he wants to put together as Biden caused all of it.
It's racist to make an arrest or even call the cops. This is bad, bad stuff. So in the land of make-believe, Joe Biden's land, none of this stuff is happening, but what is happening, the scourge of white supremacy. Yes, white supremacy is responsible for all this stuff. We had to go back quite some way to find footage of this. White supremacy does exist.
Now, for people who are looking, he's making fun out of, we had to go back to 1925 to show a rally of white supremacists. Of course, this, whatever degree of problem you believe white supremacy is today, with the advent of the internet, social media, and other types of communication, you don't need parades. Not everything that lacks a parade doesn't exist, I think is the point that we should be taking from this.
Are some idiots who believe in that, and they're off in the woods somewhere. Knock yourselves out. Don't break the law. And if you do, well, you should be arrested.
Here we go now.
January 6th is another fixture in the land of make-believe that this was the worst thing that ever happened. Not that it was a trespassing event, not that Democrats may have had a hand in setting the conditions and even perhaps setting the whole thing up.
Whoa.
There's something to talk about there. All right, all this stuff is going on. All the other stuff is not going on, but they're saying it's going on.
Okay, so he just kind of goes into completely wacky, delusional stuff at this point in time. So this is the next iteration where they've tried to blame everyone other than themselves. However, when they blame Democrats for the insurrection, they're admitting there was an insurrection, right? Like, should we consider that a victory to some degree? But this is another layer as to why, as I've been saying earlier this week, these folks have to be held accountable. And when I say that, I mean the inciters need to be voted out of office in 2022. They're not going to be. Many of the inciters are in dark red districts, and there's no chance that they're voted out. It's just not going to happen. But we need there to be consequences. Number one, in order to be able to say, here are the people. It's not Democrats. It's this list of people who rioted and they've been found guilty and sentenced. And it's this list of people in the House and Senate and they've lost their seats. We're not going to get that, not to the degree that I would hope, but it's what we would need in order to undeniably be able to push back against these horrible narratives that are being created. Like maybe Democrats not only set up the conditions, but actually set up the entire thing. There's a contingent that won't care. There's a contingent that will always believe it was Antifa or it was peaceful Trumpists or what. They're never going to believe it. But we want to be chipping away and having something really specific to say, no, it wasn't Democrats. Not a single Democratic member of Congress or whatever. These were Trumpists. They were prosecuted. They were found guilty. They were sentenced. These are the elected officials who did it. And I wish I could say I was confident that we were going to get that. I don't think that we are. I still don't think that we are to the degree that we really need it. If you think we're going to get those consequences, let me know when and how you think we're going to get them, because I don't think that mostly the slaps on the wrist that we're seeing right now are cutting it. And we'll see. There's still many cases pending.